Our family has grown. Welcome to the world, Hannah baby. Introducing a new collection, Hannah Soft, made with Tencel. It's so breathable, with stretchy comfort for all of baby's first moments. And it's cool and gentle on their skin all year round. Entrusted Hannah quality for your most precious gift. Hannah Soft, made to last. Shop now at hannahanderson.com.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage? Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Your mom is a podcast. Your mom is a podcast. Your mom is a podcast. Your mom is a podcast.
Hello and welcome to Your Mom is a Podcast. In this very
Mom.
special your mom, you know what? Your mom.
Specifically.
Your Mom's a podcast.
Yeah, Your Mom's a podcast.
Here we interview incredible people and their moms to be like, excuse me, how did you do it?
Yeah.
How
'Cause
did
we
you?
want to know. We need the help because Milana and I are both, I'm Sandeep Parikh, you're,
Milana Weintraub.
and we're both two LA-based comedians and actors, and we're also new parents, and we need help.
We're fools and we honestly just don't want to mess up our kids. And we're going to talk to people who are incredible and inspiring and change the world, crack us up, all of the above.
Right. And learn to be better parents. Maybe, and also learn to have some compassion for our parents.
Yeah, who maybe did some things a little wonky or a little perfect, because look at us, we turned out to be perfect people.
So welcome to Your Mom is a Podcast.
Can I tell you that I am forcing myself to be sillier than I naturally feel to be right now because I was in such a sour mood before we got here. I'm really muscling it. I do feel better. I do feel like I've faked it till I maked it and I've mind over mattered it.
You've made it?
Yeah, I feel much better
Oh.
than I did before this. And I really do think for me, silliness helps.
Yeah, just getting weird. Kind of just shaking it up, changing state.
Except literally changing my state. Yeah, it's as though I've done like a silly little dance, but I just did it with my words and bits.
Yeah, I did it with drugs, specifically caffeine, which
That too. But I've
been trying to lay off of, but had to just succumb to the beast of caffeine. Do you want to talk about what went down?
Yeah,
or?
it's just my kid is in some stage of a cold right now. Like he's been over it for many days, but he's still just so hard to be around because he doesn't feel good.
It's a lingering cold. Yeah, that's what my little one's going through. He's been like almost a month.
Yeah, he had like a cough for a while and it went away and now it's back and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we took him to the urgent care last week. The doctor was like, here's an antibiotic. He's got a slight ear infection. Everything else, you're just going to have to wait out. And I was like, great, here's your money. Thank you. The point is, he's good enough to go to school, but he doesn't want to go to school. And not only that, he doesn't want to do anything. He wakes up demanding things that aren't there and then gets upset because he can't find a certain skid steer truck and then gets upset that his sand has been moved and everything is at a 10 and there is no patience. And the only thing that I'm supposed to do is have enough patience for everybody. Also, my husband's sick, so he's out of the picture right now. And
is he upset that his truck isn't there? And
my husband woke up. Well, he's like, my skid steer. Where's my skid steer? I want my Paw Patrol. And so I had to get him his Paw Patrol. And then, and meanwhile, I'm also trying to like make lunch for my kid and make breakfast for myself. And like breakfast for myself is just whatever my kid doesn't finish eating.
It's cold, leftover, half spit out.
I think I literally ate a half split out waffle this morning. Yeah. And
it's a delicacy.
Luckily, I really like what my son spits out. I only serve him things that would be good eaten, half eaten. And then, drove him to school and he didn't want to go to school and all the things. And my job is just to keep my cool and be nice to him and be patient. Not just more patient than he can be. I have to make up for the negative patience of him.
Yeah.
And
hence the caffeine.
And that's hard. And so listen, another point is this weekend, my husband and I took a weekend without our kid. And one of the conversations we had
awesome.
which was, it was amazing. And one of the things that we were saying, there were definitely moments where we were like, oh, wish he was here. How cute would it be if he was just running around on this lawn, Right. And then we really had to be like, why isn't he here? Like, what do we want to get out of our time without him? And so much of that was
What'd you guys do? Start a business?
No, we just giggled. We just enjoyed the present moment. We honestly, our nervous systems needed to re-regulate to give attention to each other. Yeah. And it was amazing to just pause and focus on my husband and my husband focus on me and us focus inward on our own needs. It was, it sounds so simple, yet it is so rare and really revolutionary. And also this is so silly, but you have to focus on your relationship to be better parents. And even now that my
100%.
husband is sick, I'm so happy that we filled up our tank with love for each other so that now he can be sick. And I'm like, oh, poor guy. Instead of being like, oh, so it must be nice. You're going to be sick in bed by yourself. I'm going to go take care of the whole house. No worries. I got it all.
I love getting sick for that reason, though.
I know you do. I know
I'm like,
you do.
Oh, let me just eat your snot, kiddo, because I can't wait. I want to veg out and rewatch Breaking Bad again. That would be amazing.
Can't recommend it enough, Sandeep.
Okay, hey, we got an awesome guest today, Travis McElroy. He and I go back a little bit. We've gamed together on streams over the pandemic, which was cool. But then we really got to know each other at Gen Con, which is this huge 60,000 person convention in Indianapolis for gaming. And we got to play D&D together live on stage. But really how we got to know each other was a 2 a.m. walk where we were walking each other back to the hotel from one of these games. And he's got kids. And so we just talked about being parents and also trying to be performing personalities and traveling to conventions and just kind of being away from a kid and just having this whole amazing parenting conversation. He had so much wisdom. He was full of so much wisdom. And then I was immediately we have to absolutely get him on this podcast. And we were so lucky to get him because this dude is busy. He's got amazing podcasts that he and his whole family do together. Probably the biggest one, My Brother and Me and The Adventure Zone are two podcasts that they do as a family.
So
pretty cool to be doing stuff as a family. Yeah.
I thought our podcast was cute. Never mind.
It's lovely that they're able to do it. We're going to talk about that with him today. And of course, his dad, who's our pre-interview guest. Their shows together have often been at the top of the charts and have been adapted. This is cool. Have been adapted into graphic novels that became New York Times bestsellers.
That's insane.
I got to tell you, I did the pre-interview with his dad. His dad is a radio personality, and that dude was full of energy, full of wisdom. So this is going to be a great interview. I'm so excited.
Me too.
Travis, it is so good to have you. We're so excited.
Thank you.
We're in now.
We're in it? Or is this the podcast?
This has been the podcast. It is the podcast.
It's been the podcast the whole time. Travis, are you paying attention?
No. At this point, I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old. And it's easy to just kind of go on auto and just go like, oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, really? Really covers most of it. If your kid starts talking in an excited way, even if you can't understand, because they'll just like, oh, and then it's the guy, and you just go, oh, what? Really? No. Really?
Yeah. So that's great, except that my kid, I don't know if he's special in this way, but he has caught on to my ums, reallys, and yas, and goes, Daddy, are you listening? Are you actually listening?
Whoa, brutal.
How old?
4 1/4.
Oh, wow.
And he's totally freaking picked up on it and does not allow me to do it. He's like, and he goes, are you thinking of something else, Daddy? I think he's heard
Ooh.
my wife say it, and he is 100% right 100% of the time on it. I have no segue.
Are you about to talk about my dad? Because that is a good segue.
Oh, did I enjoy talking to your dad? What a lovely man. And we did a pre-interview with him. This is how the show goes, Travis. I don't know if you're aware via all the emails we sent you.
Yeah.
But we did a pre-interview with your dad and asked him a bunch of questions about you and how you parent and all this other stuff.
How I parent?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm worried about that because my dad lies a lot and exaggerates a lot. So we'll see how it goes.
And just about, yeah. And we asked him those questions. We're going to ask you what you think he answered and then see if those answers match up. If they do, you get a gold star.
Hell yeah.
Which means nothing.
Wow.
It means absolutely
It's winning,
nothing
right?
except for,
Yeah, sure.
exactly, pride.
Let's start with our first question.
Well, this first thing is that we just got an overview on the McElroy family from your dad. So this is not really a comparison thing. Let's just hear what he said.
I have an older brother, David, a younger brother, Mark. So I am the middlest brother of those. But Leslie and I had 3 sons, Justin, Travis, and Griffin. Justin married Sydney, and Travis married Teresa, and Griffin married Rachel. And they each have delivered unto me grandchildren. I have 4 granddaughters. Oh, I have 5 granddaughters and 2 grandsons. I remarried, and so I also have a wonderful stepdaughter and stepson. So I have 7 grandkids altogether, and they are that's the second best gig, is being a grandparent, because you can have fun and rev them up and buy them all the sugar they want and then drop them at home.
Okay, did he get all that math right?
Yeah, he got it right.
Okay, so we asked your dad, why did he become a parent?
Oh, because he got my mom pregnant. Was that the answer?
Let's
That's
see.
my guess. No. Okay. So was there more? Sorry, I interrupted you to make.
No, that's the question. What do you think drove him towards parenthood?
I would say that he probably said something about, like, I don't know, some real bullshit about, like, well, family's always been important to me, and I want to be a dad, and like I met Leslie, and I just knew we were going to start a family, and blah, 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 stuff like that, you know.
Okay, so why do you think the real reason is?
I think because, like, I think he wanted to have kids. I think he liked the idea of having kids. I think he wanted to be a dad. I think kids are fun, and I think it was also, man, it was when would that have been? The late 70s, early 80s. And it was like, yeah, man, that's what you do. When you're married, next is kids.
This trendy thing to do. It's like the
logical thing to do.
Yeah, there wasn't as much examination around whether or not you're going to have kids at that time.
Yeah, like my older brother was born when my mom was like 24, right? And like, I bet if you asked her, that was like, yeah, I started kind of late, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My mom had me when she was 19, and she like basically had to get pregnant as soon as she was married.
Yeah.
It was what you did. I know. And now the thought process about whether we should or we shouldn't is like, it's almost novel. It's like so novel that it's almost got a shame element to it.
Mm-hmm. It feels luxurious to be able to be like, I don't know if I will. Ooh, look at me.
You're so privileged.
You're living on the edge.
Yeah, I mean, back in those days, right? Like, was there even contraception, or was it just all pulling out at that point?
In the 70s and 80s? Yeah, man.
There was contraception.
Was there?
Yeah, it wasn't just a lambskin.
It was all rhythm method and drinking flat Diet Coke or something. I don't know.
All right, let's find out the real reason. Let's hear what your dad had to say.
Really, I was the co-creator of that with my wonderful wife, Leslie. We were high school sweethearts and got married, and just terrific lady. Passed away in 2005. I always wanted to have kids, and I have said, and I mean it 100%, it's the best gig I ever had, being a dad. Absolutely the best gig. I tell anybody who talks about, I don't know, bring a child into this troubled world. The world is always troubled. But you do not fully comprehend the concept of love until you have a kid that you love and that loves you back. So yeah, I always wanted to be a dad. And so I love it. It's a super gig.
Okay, listen. I love my dad so much. He's my dad. He's my father.
He's your dad and your father. Got it.
He's my dad and my father.
I'm taking notes. Keep going.
But that's not even a given anymore. I'm not even going to say like I love him because he's my dad. Like I love that man. That's bullshit. And I'll tell you what. Not always going to be a dad thing. But right now, his youngest child is like going to turn 37 in April. So this idea of like best gig in the world, that's rose-colored like historical glasses, bud. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I got a 7-year-old, 4-year-old, and I love it. I love them so much. But I'm not going to wax poetic about it and be like, great. I'm like, no, for me, it's great. I love them. I too have always wanted to be a dad. I remember going on a date when I was 18 years old and telling the girl I was on a date with, like, I can't wait to be a father. We didn't have a second date, and that's fine. But like, I feel that way too.
So I literally can't wait. What are you doing tonight?
Yeah. Hey, are you busy?
Exactly.
I hear the Notebook's playing. Also, I can't wait to be a dad. Hello. But it's the kind of thing of like, it's great for me, right? It was the right choice for myself. But I have lots of friends who are like, I can't imagine having kids, and I'm like, cool, man. Leave more room for my kids then at the swimming pool. That's great.
I feel like I have friends who always thought they wanted to have kids and then had a kid and were like, what the did I get into?
Yeah, but I think that happens, right? I think it's different from like, I never wanted a kid, but I'm going to do it because society is pressuring me to do it.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that is a lot different of a thing of like, how do you know if you want to have a kid? You're even thinking about the idea of having a kid, right? Like, you're open to the idea of doing it. And like, I don't think you'll ever be ready. I'm still not ready, man. I'm at least 7 years in, and it's still like, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing, right? And there's new stuff that comes up all the time. I remember the first time BB went to school, and I was terrified. It was the first time, like 4 years old. She's out of my sight for an extended period. Like, I have zero control what happens for her in the next like 6 hours. And I could not handle that feeling. It took me a long time to get used to that. And so like, yeah, man, you're never ready. But like, if you're thinking about it and you want to, that's as good a place to start as any.
That's true.
100%. And so you did this thing, you McElroy, you guys did this thing where you decided to start working together as a family or maybe you just have always been working together and just decided to turn mics on to record it. But we asked your dad, what drove you to start working together as a family? What do you think he said?
Well, I know the correct answer. So I'm going to bet that he said something like, well, even when the kids were growing up, they would come in to the radio station and play parts in like commercials that we did and do stuff like that. But the answer to why we started My Brother and Me is because Justin and Griffin and I were moving to different parts of the country and we wanted an excuse to stay in touch. And so we saw a podcast as a way to like make sure that we talked to each other at least once a week and stayed in touch and everything.
I love that.
And so we started doing the podcast, and then turned out people liked listening to it, but that wasn't like the goal. And then Adventure Zone started because we needed some filler episodes for My Brother and Me for Justin's first kid being born. And we needed some like paternity leave episodes. So we started doing that. We just had a lot of fun doing it. So we kept doing it. We also grew up doing theater together. He might have mentioned that. We'll see.
For us, the dinner table was our Coliseum, where the where the gladiators all came together, the comedy gladiators. We tried to have dinner together every evening, but we would sit at the dinner table and talk about the day that we've had, and they would compete in trying to make me laugh and trying to make Leslie laugh. And that was kind of, even back then, you could see the foundations of that. And also, theater was a very big element in our lives, in the boys' lives. Leslie and I were very involved in local children's theater, and that really was kind of a template for us because theater is the most collaborative of arts, and we were co-collaborators. So kind of doing the podcasts and the things that have followed have just kind of naturally fallen into that, collaborative mindset.
Ding, 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 ding.
I don't think you can just say theater is the most collaborative art, right? There's plenty of things like, I don't know, dancing's pretty collaborative. Like, what about two people painting together? Come on.
I think I would argue the theater is a little more collaborative than two people painting together.
Well, I mean, what if they're painting each other? Like on each other's bodies?
well-
Huh?
You know what? I haven't witnessed that enough to comment.
You're not going to the right parties.
Well, listen. First of all, you get a gold star. You get two, I think, because you get the first one. You also got a gold star on.
Thank you.
You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You love ragging on your dad, but what would you say is the best trait you got from him?
My sense of humor, honestly, like it's so one for one. Not too long ago, we were like FaceTiming with him, and he said something, and Dot, who's 4, said to him like, "You're silly, just like my dad." And it was so like, it felt so good in that moment of like, yeah, you're absolutely correct. And I think my dad has a lot of kindness and like in his heart for everyone. And I think goes out of his way to be supportive of everyone. And one of the things that I tried to embody more and more, one of the things that I really admire and respect about my dad is his enthusiasm for things, his ability to like, not worry about like my dad was the one who started taking us to like comic book conventions and introduced us to like Star Trek and Star Wars and like all these nerd properties and everything. And especially he was growing up in like the 60s and stuff when it wasn't, I mean, long before it was ever cool and mainstream to be into these things. And he still maintained an enthusiasm about them in comic books and stuff like that. And I remember like being in middle school and high school, and the idea of like publicly talking about liking those things was so like scary to me. Of just like, well, you don't.
Yeah,
I mean, it's okay to play video games, but you don't talk about video games.
I think so. You said so. I'm going to mark down sense of humor and maybe enthusiasm as the things that were passed on to you as your best trait. It's going to be weird to be wrong. Here you go. Let's play the tape.
Actually, I think being a front man. I am basically a very shy person, but because of the job I was in, broadcasting, and because of being involved in the public eye and stuff, I had to find out how to represent myself, how to be the front man. And I think if you would ask any of my sons, they would tell you that Travis is definitely the front man of the group. He loves getting out there. He loves meeting people. He loves making connections. And I kind of feel like maybe he got that for me.
So this is where we find out that the me in my brother and me is actually
you.
Travis.
Yeah.
Is that
Listen, I'm not going to say it, but that's a cheap answer because he said he's a shy person. So you can't be like,
I know. It was the very same thought occurred to me. That was like, oh, so that wasn't. It was a trait that he sort of like earned or sort of. It wasn't, sort of genetically passed on to him. He
overcame it.
No, he's right.
Overcame it and then passed it on to you.
He's right. Like, so growing up, he's like on the #1 show in the tri-state where we grew up in the morning. And so like everyone knew my dad. And so like people would walk up to him and they'd be like, "Hey, Clint." And he'd be like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going? How's the family going? Oh, it's so great to see you." And then you would walk away and I'd be like, "Who was that?" And he's like, "I have no idea." And he's got very good at it. And so like I remember having this very clear image of my dad that he was like this very like outgoing, knew everybody, never met a stranger kind of guy. And then I remember when I moved to Cincinnati, I started working at the Shakespeare Company, and he and Carol came up for a show we were doing, and we all went out afterwards, and like he was so shy. And I was just I think it was like the first time it had ever registered for me of like, oh, my dad is very shy. And like I just never really noticed because like I'd only ever seen him
In his
as
element.
like, hey, I'm Clint McElroy, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing this thing.
Right,
And I was like, yeah, my dad, is friends with everybody and goes out of his way. And then it's like, oh, that's part of his job that he's doing. That is like part of a character he's created. And if he's in a place where he doesn't feel comfortable, he doesn't do that.
Yeah. It's like he's got these two modes.
Yeah.
Do you have any of that? Or it seems like, I mean, every time I've interfaced with you, you've been pretty similarly outgoing.
Yeah.
Is that,
no, I
do you share any of that?
That it is very much me 95% of the time. Is like outgoing, wanting to talk to everybody.
So you're a hard extrovert.
No, well, but when that 5% happens, it's so black and white of like most of the time, but every so often it's like it just flips and I can't stand people. There's no faking it. There's no anything.
I
It's
hate
just
the world.
like it usually happens like I'm so tired or something is frustrating me and it's burned through all of that. And it's just like, I now have no mask. There's no covering up the fact that I hate everyone in this room. I can't like fake it.
So what would you say then is your worst trait or habit that your dad passed on to you?
I would guess he's not going to say this. And if he doesn't, he's wrong. But
Okay.
the worst trait I would say, and I think that this is shared by a lot of sons from fathers, but like I have a really hard time letting someone be upset, where like if I see someone who's sad or angry or whatever, I immediately want to fix it instead of letting them like experience and process their feelings.
I feel that so hard, the living in the discomfort of someone being upset.
Yeah. I was just going to ask, is it weird for you that we're the same person?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's really hard for me. It's a thing that I've had to like, and I actually do think it's an ADHD thing. I think that it's part of the other people having a feeling around you is what our brains want to do is say, well, I've already thought of all the solutions. So here it is. You're feeling something that's difficult or sad or whatever it is. I've noticed that. I don't like it. So here are all of the options. My brain is working overtime to find all the solutions. So instead of being with somebody while they're feeling the feelings, we come in and go, well, just do this or this.
And I also will say, man, I'm 40 years old. I've been in therapy for many, many years. I'm trying to learn how to be a human with other humans. And there's still a part of me that's like, okay, you're sad and I could make you laugh and that's wrong somehow. And I'm not 100% sure why, because wouldn't you rather laugh than be sad? And
I think we would rather laugh than be sad.
Yes.
I think that's true for certain
rather
people.
than laugh.
I find that if anybody can make me laugh when I'm sad, I am now in love with you.
Right.
I will run away with you. But there are so many people. In fact, I've had friendships where people have told me like, I need you to just stop trying to fix this. Don't give me solutions. Just be with me so I can talk this out. Because I think we as ADHDers will process all of our feelings and get to a solution and then be able to compartmentalize our feeling instead of feeling it and then just distract ourselves with the next thing. Whereas people who are not neurodivergent in that way actually need to address how they're feeling in that moment to be able to move on.
Did you guys just diagnose me as ADHD? Because
listen, man, here's the thing. If you're in the entertainment industry, it's like a 90% chance.
You just are.
Yeah. Like very rarely does someone get into acting and they're completely neurovirgin or whatever. Right? There's something going on there. Neurovirgin.
Level. All right.
Neurotypical. That's the word I was looking for. Neurotypical.
I like virgin.
Yeah, virgin. Neurovirgins.
What should we lock in as your answer for the worst trait?
Trying to fix people's problems.
Okay. All right. That's what we'll lock in. Let's see what your
That's
dad
not what he's
said.
gonna say though.
Travis diagnosed early on in elementary school that he had ADHD. And we had this wonderful kid who was energetic and outgoing and smart as a whip. But just in school, he was just having all these issues. And at home, he was having all these issues. And one of his teachers, actually his physical education teacher, said, have you ever had him tested for ADHD?
Is that it? Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing. Dad says that. And I get my dad definitely has ADHD, and I definitely inherited it from him. But this was like 4 or 5 years ago. We were at a convention in Chicago, and I had like noticed some things in my dad, like put them together over time. And I was like, Dad, have you ever been diagnosed with ADHD? And that fool looks at me and says, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but my doctor thinks I have it.
And so what does he consider a diagnosis?
I gave him the slowest burn. I was like, you said it, right? And you heard it. And so,
but my doctor has written it down and prescribed me a medication.
He's prescribed me medication.
But I've never been formally diagnosed, no.
So you don't technically get the point, but obviously we talked a lot about.
Give him the point.
ADHD.
I think
give him the point.
I don't know. I'm like honestly hesitant to give points, and I would say that our conversation did evolve to that place. So forget.
No, but here's what I'll also say. I don't want the point. Let me tell you why I don't want the point.
Ooh,
Thank you, Travis.
He is incorrect because like him giving me ADHD is not the word. Like a lot of the good things that I like about myself are also attached to ADHD. Yes. Right. So like,
and by the way, he did get cut off. He did actually go on to say it's not necessarily, he actually sort of echoed this. We sort of cut him off for time, but yes, that is, it's also kind of a superpower.
Yeah. The frustration stuff, the, wanting to fix everybody's problems, a little bit of rejection dysphoria, those things I would say are like harmful things that I don't love. But my ability to like
rejection dysphoria.
Oh, do you know rejection dysphoria?
About that for a second?
The best way,
I heard that term, but it just hit me in the stomach.
Yeah, best like short example is rejection dysphoria is hearing people laughing behind you and knowing they're laughing about you. Like that,
even though they're not, kind of thing.
Like you don't question it. The assumption is, why are they laughing about me? Right. So rejection dysphoria is like when someone's like, "Hey, I can't make it today." Your first thought is like, I must have done something that made them not want to hang out with me. Right. And you don't go to, plans change and they're busy. You find out some people hung out and you were not just not invited, but you were excluded. Right. That feeling of, I believe, like, I immediately assume everything is personal and everything is because they don't like me because I'm not good enough, that kind of thing. And so to that point, to the thing you were saying earlier, Milana, when I get rejected by something, it's refreshing, honestly. When someone's like, I remember once I auditioned for a thing and it was like I auditioned to like join a theater company and I never heard back about it. And so I remember like a month or two passed and I was like, this is still in the window of time where I might still hear something. And it was like, then the next season started. And I was like, okay, I didn't. But it would have been nice to know that way, way earlier. Like have a conclusive, this is done. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore. But that
I
feeling
always
of like,
thought
I
that
wish
about
I'd known.
Ghosting in dating.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the most selfish thing you can do because you think you're sparing somebody a feeling, but you're actually just prolonging that feeling and then sparing yourself because you're just not there to witness it.
Right. Yeah, that's all it is like, man, you cut that off. Like, hey, not working out.
But genuine feedback is such a relief.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's why I've always said, like, if you're upset, please just tell. Like, I don't know what I did. And the only way that I can fix it is if you tell me.
And but so is part of feeling or is part of trying to fix people's feelings related to this. So like if you feel like there is somebody who is distancing themselves from you or is cold, do you then try to attach more to that person to try to get them to like you?
I would say it is more, at least for me, the way that it manifests is like, if someone is around me, I want them to be happy. I want them to think, I like having Travis around. Travis makes me happy, right? And so if someone is sad around me, I want to be the person who fixes it, right? And then it's like, oh, Travis saved the day. Travis made me happy. I like having Travis around. And so
I love saving the day.
It took me so long to figure out, like, actually, the best thing you can do sometimes is just be there, right? And like, it is a thing. Teresa is also very special to me because she's like the one person in the world that I truly feel comfortable being completely off around. Like, I don't have to I'm not doing anything. I'm not trying to be anything. We can just like sit there and be on our phones. And I don't feel like, oh, I haven't said anything in a while. Oh, I'm ignoring this person. I feel terrible. Right. It's just like, no, I feel perfectly comfortable just being off. And so like, I think for a long time, it was that feeling of like, if someone's around me, they need to be entertained. They need to be happy. They need to know that I care about them and like want to have me around because I do all this stuff and I think about their feelings all the time and I'm taking care of. And it's like, man, that's exhausting. She is the person that I can be around and be like, I'm so honestly upset. I'm not couching my frustration, my anger, anything. Like I can be honest about how I feel about whatever is happening and know that she's not going to stop loving me.
We should start pushing this idea of dating, but as your worst self. The first date should be like, let's show up under-resourced, let's be our worst selves, and we'll see if this works.
Okay, let's get back to the job we're here to do.
Oh, right.
Fine.
Sorry, I'm just so entertaining and pleasant.
We asked your dad, what's a major life challenge that you guys had to work through?
I mean, it's probably my mom passing away. I would have to say it's the biggest one. I would say it's one of two things. Either it's my mom passing away or my wife and I had a miscarriage on our first baby. And I think both of those things I am very comfortable and open about talking about because I think one, especially miscarriage is something that's so stigmatized. And I have felt strongly about destigmatizing that. And I also think like, I've been doing like Zen meditation and Zen stuff since I was like 22. And I have come to truly believe like each thing that happens is the thing that happens so the next thing in the universe could happen. I remember once reading this thing that basically phrased it as like, in order for the universe to exist, everything that has happened had to be the next thing. Because if something happened that wasn't supposed to happen in the existence of the universe, it would have erased the universe. So like everything that has happened is the thing that was supposed to happen for the universe to continue to exist.
Which is a wild thought because it's like, that means we're like constantly skirting full erasure.
Yeah.
We're just like barely surfing the craziest tidal wave of existence.
That, thank God the next thing happens, right? It's like, it's always just the next thing. And it's not good or bad. It's not like everything that happens for a reason or, look for the silver lining. It's just like, that happened. And then this happened. And then that will happen. And
is that the context that you sort of had in sort of grieving your
not at the
passing?
time? No, I mean, not at the time, right? I was 21 when my mom died. Griffin was 18. Justin was 24. And it took me a long time because of course it did. And also it took me a long time to forgive myself for grieving so long, which is a hard thing to do, but silly. But then it really was like one day I let go of all the fantasies of if I could travel back in time and save my mom, if I could change things, right? Because it started to be like, well, would I have met Teresa? Would I have had my kids? Would I have done these things? Would I like, all of these things that happened and the whatever people we've made laugh doing my brother, me, or things that we've created or all whatever we've done, it probably would be completely different. And I'm not saying like, and so I'm glad my mom died, but it's more just like, yeah, man, like it's all a chain of things that happens and you can't just take one link out because you don't like that link. Like it is a chain of events that occurs and the good things and the bad things are all part of the same chain.
I think with that, let's hear what your dad had to say.
Well, the passing of their mom was the worst thing that ever happened, I think, to the four of us. She passed very quickly once her issue was diagnosed. And, coming to grief is a very personal thing. It's not really something you can help somebody else do, but having somebody to talk to about it and having somebody who's in the same boat as you, that helps.
Yeah, I think one of the things, since we started doing My Brother, Me, and then Adventure Zone, we occasionally will get comments where people are like, I don't even like my brothers, or like my dad and I never talk, right? And that's another thing. We're like, there's a different world, right? Where my mom didn't, a different universe where my mom like didn't pass or passed later or whatever, and Justin and Griffin and I are like have very different relationships. That like my relationship with my dad is very different because like that happening, my mom dying caused this like shared scar in such a way, or kind of thing of like a connection was built then that I think has been the foundation for our relationship now. That I wouldn't change for the world. Like I would say my best friends are like my dad and my brothers, and like I have many other best friends. I'm a very popular, well-loved person, and I don't want to brag, but I would say that like,
but that's your whole psychology.
But that's like my whole thing. But I think that like the people that I feel most connected to outside of like my wife and kids is my brothers and my dad. Like that family is very close, and that's also led to like, so we spend a lot of time together. Our kids have gotten to spend a lot of time together. Our kids have gotten to spend a lot of time with their grandfather. Like there's a lot of the connection, the strength of it being brought back to that incredibly traumatic event. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know that I would have gone on the same like self-care, self-understanding, like therapy journey had my mom not passed. I don't think I'd be as good at dad if I hadn't spent so much time thinking about my parents' impact on my life and who I was and analyzing my own feelings about things and how I could grow from something like that, how I could be a better person. I don't think I would have been the right partner for Teresa when I met her if I hadn't been going through all of that like self-discovery and thinking about my impact in life and all that stuff. Like I there's so much that came out of it that now I look back on and I can see how the ripples went out. That said, not to get too serious for a moment, but there are still things that happen. Like when my kids were born, Teresa and my wedding, like us doing all that stuff, it's just like, I wish mom could see it, right? Like that's the grief that like never goes away of like when something happens and thinking like, if I could go back in time now, instead of letting go of the like, I would try to save my mom, I would go back and be like, here's pictures of your grandkids and here's my wife and this is like our wedding day and let me play our podcast for you and see if you think it's funny. Which she would. She would laugh and go, "Oh my god, I can't believe." Answer. Yeah, my mom like we'd say some wild. My mom would be like, "I can't believe you said that," and it would be great. And like stuff like that, I think is where the grief still lives, and I think that's fine, right? Because I mean, I think that means it's a reflection of that I like my life, right? That things keep happening that I wish I could share with my mom means that there are things I'm proud of and things that I love. And
that's
things
interesting.
That are
it's like almost like a barometer.
Yeah. Right. Like I'm living a life now that I wish my mom could see, which, being there at 21 years old and when my mom was passing and all I could do was keep apologizing because at 21, I felt like I wasn't a good enough son and I hadn't done enough and all this stuff. And now thinking like she would be so proud of me and I'm proud of me and I wish I could tell her about it.
In those moments where you feel those times where you're like, oh, I wish mom was here. Like how quickly do you reflex to like, oh man, my life is going well. Like that thought that you just sort of described as the barometer.
It's an undercurrent versus a pang kind of deal. Like I know it. It doesn't change the like feeling of it. Of like so a similar thing to like BB, my oldest, was born. It was like an emergency C-section and we almost lost her and it was very scary. And then she ended up being fine. But like it was 15 minutes, emergency C-section. They rushed Teresa out of the room. I was left by myself in a room for 15 minutes. And a doctor came in and said, "You're dad, everything's fine." Right. But for like that 15 minutes, I had no information. I was alone by myself in a room waiting to find out what happened. And later I was diagnosed with PTSD from that event because I just kept uncontrollably sobbing and collapsing on the ground because a voice in my head would say, "You almost lost her." And I found by talking about it and letting myself experience the things and not shutting down when I talk about it, it gave me a better understanding about it, right? And a better appreciation that I didn't lose her, that I still get to hug her and hold her and all that stuff. And so it's a very similar thing where years and years and years of introspection and examining the way that I felt about it and looking at my life through different lenses and looking at like makes me understand the feelings that I have in regards to like my mom's death, in regards to having ADHD, in regards to having a miscarriage and then a baby and then a miscarriage and then a baby, and how I feel about my brothers, how I feel about myself, how I feel about the world, the things I'm trying to change, the things I like about myself, all of that stuff. Anyways, how's your comedy podcast? This is supposed to be funny because I have not.
It's actually
really.
perfect.
It's supposed to be this.
You're doing
Okay,
great.
good.
Yeah, it's
See,
supposed to
that's
be
an
exactly
example of I
this.
started to feel too real and I made a joke, and I apologize for that because I was feeling too vulnerable. So I made a joke to cover it.
I'm so glad you feel bad about that. So
I
glad
feel
you're
terrible.
apologizing for it.
Yeah, I
Thank
feel
you.
terrible
for that wisdom and for that vulnerability.
Mhm.
Well, look, I think maybe this is a good time to go to the next question that we asked your dad, which is, what is your best parenting advice? So, what do you think he said was his best parenting advice to you?
Be interested in your kids and ask them questions and listen when they talk. And
Don't just say really.
yeah, but I think like that is a thing, whether he said this or not, is true of dad, of like dad shares interests with us, both his interests with us, but also like if we got interested in He-Man, he would get interested. If we got interested in doing what's the thing, like what's the thing, Odyssey of the Mind, right? Justin did Odyssey of the Mind in school.
Odyssey OM.
And
Yeah.
so dad was like, okay, let's do this. And like sharing interests with your kids and like being present for them. That is not the advice I would give, but I think that's what he said.
Okay, let's hear what he said.
The best parenting advice I ever got was just general advice that I remember my dad passing along. My dad passed away when I was 10 years old. I can remember my dad always telling me that the family credo should be read the room. He was a big believer in those three words, RTR, read the room. And in his estimation, reading the room meant being empathic, being sensitive, not even being empathic, but really paying attention.
In case you're wondering, I suspect that my dad's dad also had ADHD.
Yep. I was just going to say, I'm like, oh, so that's the same kind of dysphoria then?
Yeah, that's also like the thing that makes it so your impulsive thoughts of like, make a joke right now, say this thing that just popped into your head, be funny
Everyone's
right now.
feelings are your responsibility.
Right. Of that thing of like, hey, read the room. This isn't the time for that joke. Read the room. The energy is a lot lower than that. That kind of thing. It was never read the room like you're being too still. You're being too calm and everyone else is wild and zany. It was always like, hey, you're
being too observant.
You're vibrating off the walls. Maybe read the room a little bit about what's going on. I think that is good advice for if your child has ADHD. It's something that I'm definitely trying to impart to my ADHD child in BB, of this idea of like, hey, right now, do you see how we're all like here and you're like here, right? Maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and she's like, step it up then.
Yeah, well, honest to God, yes. This is, I mean, because my advice that I would give people that I'm trying to work on is to not hold your kids to a higher standard than you hold yourself. Of like, the other day, man, speaking of frustration from earlier, the other day, I heard her get really frustrated at Dot, at her younger sister, and immediately jumped to like raising her voice in frustration and sounding really frustrated. And I started to be like, hey, you don't need to talk to her that way just because you're frustrated. And as I was doing that, I realized like when I get frustrated, I talk to BB that way and then say, well, daddy's allowed to get frustrated just like you're allowed to get frustrated. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But if I don't like that she sounds that way to Dot, then I should also not like that I sound that way to her because I'm setting that example.
Right. So is the answer then, and I don't know if there's an answer, but is the thing to work on is like, oh, do you take that on as like, oh, that's something I have to work on to model better? Or is it like, no, I'm just going to let them have their relationship?
For me, I'm trying to work on it of like, how do I express in words the frustration instead of letting my voice raise first and then saying, sorry, I was frustrated and here's why. If instead I can say, before I get to that point, I want you to know that right now I'm feeling very frustrated because I feel like you are not listening to me, instead of getting frustrated and then apologizing and then explaining, and trying to model that behavior more. But also keeping in mind at that same time, like, here's a 7-year-old kid with ADHD who also is 7, right? And like,
Yes,
she's
she's a developing mind.
yeah, she's trying to figure out her own.
Uh-oh.
And the idea that I would be like, hey, like you're being kind of annoying right now or whatever is like out of the question to me.
Mhm.
Right. And so like that kind of thing
Yeah.
of like, okay, you know what? I might be getting frustrated at you doing this thing, but that's me and not because of something you're doing. That said,
Yeah.
one of the things, because she's such a funny kid and she has a great sense of humor and like comes from a line of it. She comes by it honest. And she wants to be funny, right? So really trying to like gently impart the things about comedy that I know and saying like,
Yeah.
oh, you got to laugh at that the first time. And then you did it 4 more times. But the comedy is not in the repetition of that, right? The comedy was in the surprise of it the
It's
first
the
time you
heightening.
said it. And then each time you said it, it was less surprising. So if you
and then
like
she
the
goes,
laugh-
but Dad, have you seen Kristen Shaw's a horse? Let me pull up Exhibit A.
But Dad, it's called a catchphrase. But like that kind of thing, or saying like, I see you testing a joke over and over again, and you got to laugh that time. Why do you think that one was funny? Right? And she's like, well, because when I said it, this word, like it was that word sounded like this word, and it was like a joke about that. And I was like, exactly, nailed it. Right? It wasn't just that you said it loud or with a
Intonation or
silly face.
something.
Right? Because I could say, hey, you're being annoying. Stop trying to make jokes. Or I could say, hey, I see that this is something you want to work on. And so let me work on it with you.
Let's
And I'll
engage.
teach you how to tell a
pretty
joke.
cool.
I'll teach you jokes and I'll show you how to do that thing.
I like all this advice. I feel like there's like a bunch of advice here. The read the room thing is like, it feels like it's like, oh, it's, take a moment, take a minute, kind of like assess the situation, pause. I feel like is tied up in that. And then treat your kids with higher standards than you treat yourself, which also sounds like to me, like, but raise your standards for yourself.
Yeah. Oh,
like, kinda keep
100%.
working on
Well, that's
yourself.
what they are. They're the mirror for us.
Yeah.
They're so often showing us how we talk and behave.
The number of times that BB will do something, because BB is like a tiny clone of me. BB will do something and I'll be like, hey, bud, that was too loud. And I'll just see Teresa out of the corner of her eye like, yeah, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, I know. Okay, I know. I get what you're saying. Yes.
I think it's beautiful that you and Teresa have this relationship where she can lovingly call you out and you really take the note.
It's one of my favorite things. Like, I trust her so much. And I also like, as much pride and hubris I have about many things, I don't kid myself into thinking like I'm always nailing it. And so like the number of times that like we're at a party together and she'll like cue me with like just a gentle touch on the forearm to let me know like, hey, you haven't shut up for like 20 minutes. Maybe let the other person. And like that kind of thing where I'm like, oh, yep, 100%. Thank you very much.
This is the last question we asked your dad. What's the one thing that you've always wanted to ask Travis but haven't?
I honestly don't know. Do you respect me as a parent? I don't know, something like that, probably. I don't know.
Okay, let's hear what he said.
There's something I've always wanted to ask Travis, but I never will because it's none of my business. When Leslie was passing away, and we knew that she didn't have much time left, we were very lucky in the fact that all of my boys got to come and have a last conversation with her. I don't know what Leslie said to him. Part of me is curious, but part of me feels like I don't deserve to know. But whatever it was, I know it was extremely meaningful for him and really was a big factor in him growing up. Like I said, that was a terrible moment for all of us, but we all came out of it, I think, stronger and definitely closer. And I would like to think that she imparted something to him that helped him in the future and kind of kept us close. And so, yeah, I've always wondered what that conversation, I've wondered what all three of them, what knowledge Leslie gave them. And that's their memory. It's not mine.
Ask me and I'll tell you. I'm not a very secretive person. I'm a very open person.
There's something to him not wanting to know. I think there's almost like
he holds it sacred.
I hate not knowing things. He's wrong. I want to know everything. I can't say I need data. That I like as soon as we got pregnant, people were like, "Oh, yeah, I don't want to find out." I'm like, "Shut up! Tell me right now. I need to know right away. It
Okay.
won't change anything, but it's information I don't have."
You feel that way about other people's babies. I don't care if you don't want to know what the gender of
Yeah,
your baby
you don't
is.
want to know,
I
but
need
like,
to know.
I
What's
need
the doctor's
to know
number?
for no reason except that it's
Yeah.
information I don't have.
Have your doctors send the sonograms to Travis.
Yeah. And I'll send you an emoji, but it won't be related to anything, but it will be my way of telling you. No, it was, in the time, it was very much when I was 21 and I'd stopped going to church, and like we had grown up being Southern Baptist. My mom was a church secretary. I'd gone to college and I was drinking in college. I was, smoking weed. But more than any of that, I think it was just like, I felt not good enough. I like had a lot of like, am I living up to what a great mom she was and all the expectations she had of me? And every time I'd ever gotten in trouble, every time I'd ever, not done something right, like all of that was what I was feeling, of this feeling of like, I'm sorry, right? It was just me apologizing a lot, and my mom telling me that it wasn't even accepting the apology. It was her saying like, you have nothing to apologize, like this very much unconditional love thing. And I look back and like, I wasn't a terrible person. I wasn't doing anything horrible, but like that was the feeling I was having, is that like my mom is dying and I am not good enough. I have not lived up to her expectations of me. I have not deserved her love in this way. And like her just telling me that was dumb. And the fact of the matter is I understand why he feels that way, and that being very special. And in the moment, it was very important that I do hold that moment very special to me. But as I've gotten older, the things that I look back on way more important than that is like, I had like 2 or 3 years where I got to be friends with my mom as a grown up, right? Where like we'd go see a movie together, just her and I, right? I remember my mom coming out and visiting after I turned 21. And they were there, and I looked at my mom and dad, and I went out to dinner, and I was like, I'm going to order a beer. And my mom was like, okay, I'm going to order a glass of wine. Okay, cool. And it was like the first and only time my mom and I ever like had a drink together, just like sitting there having dinner.
Yeah.
And like stuff like that, of like getting an opportunity to do stuff like that, an opportunity to like, I got to tell her when I was like 19 that I'd been thinking about like being a parent a lot. And I had said to my dad, like, I know what kind of dad I want to be because of the dad that you are. And my mom said, well, what about me? And I said, well, that's how I know what kind of woman I want to marry. And she started bawling and like getting moments like that, and the tapestry that all of that stuff kind of wove together. But in that moment, man, I remember being in the hospital room with her and just remembering every time I'd ever raised my voice at her, every time I had ever been angry at her, every time I'd ever gotten frustrated with her, every stupid, like, I'm not going to eat the food that you made for dinner. Every one of those was all I could think about, of like, I've wasted all this time with you, all this time that I could have just been loving you unconditionally the way that you love me. And the thing about unconditional love is it doesn't have to be reciprocated in that way. Of like right now, I think one of the reasons that having a child teaches you so much about unconditional love is that, especially from being a baby, but like for a long time, that child is just incapable of loving you to the same degree that you love them, right? You understand everything. You understand.
They don't have the context.
Yeah, you have the context of the sacrifice, the time, the input you're doing. And they're like, 1.5. They don't know what that means, right? Even up to like, I look at my 7-year-old and she doesn't understand like what it means to do the things that I do for her.
They would have to understand the concept of the economy.
Right. But little things like I'm holding the umbrella over her so she doesn't get rained on and I'm getting rained on. Right. Like, but from her experience, it's just like, well, that's just how it works. Right.
How it is.
And like, I think that is the thing about why being a parent teaches you unconditional love, because it's such a black and white version of it, like it has to be that, because there's no way for this like 3-year-old to love you at the same level you love them. It's just impossible.
Well, Travis, that's awesome. Perfect. We love you as well, and we really want you to be the best you can be.
Thank
Right
you.
now, you only have 3 stars.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I'll take
but
that.
I think we can fix that.
I'm fine with that, actually.
No, 3 stars is great.
3 out of what? Out of how many?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
There's no denominator. but we are moving into the lightning round,
Okay.
which means all your points are doubled.
Oh.
And we're gonna try to do this quickly.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lightning round, Sandeep. That's how it works. If you were like, this lightning round, let's slow it down. That'd be weird.
It's actually
Then it's just the lights are turning on.
Yeah, right. Womp womp.
Okay, first question we asked your dad is, what was your favorite meal growing up?
I'm going to say it was the pasta and peppers with sausage and like Parmesan cheese. Was that it?
Let's hear it.
Beef burgundy, and he
Incorrect. I don't remember eating that ever. I don't know what the he's talking
Okay.
about.
Okay, next question.
what was your first word?
I'm trying to remember because we had 3. It was like Cookie, Cheerio, or Big Bird. But those are the 3 of each of us, and I don't know whose this is. It's one of those 3.
Okay, we'll accept it.
I'm pretty sure it was Pooh because he had a Winnie the Pooh.
Nope, incorrect.
But he also enjoyed the
I
activity.
did not
Pooh.
have a Winnie the Pooh. I did not. What are you talking? Is this my dad?
Is he even your dad?
Is this my dad? Are you sure? Neither one of those things is true.
Oh no, we got someone else's dad.
Oh, our bad.
Next question. What would you say your D&D alignment is?
Oh, I'm what would he say? Chaotic good is my bet.
Sorry, this is his.
Oh,
this is
his?
D&D alignment. Yep.
Lawful good, I would say.
Neutral, maybe with the soupçon of chaotic.
What? He doesn't know.
Uh-oh.
Why are all these answers so wrong? You wouldn't be neutral.
What would he say?
Be neutral. That means if he saw someone getting beat up, he'd be like, "I feel nothing about this." What is he talking about?
Well, no, it's just that he would be like, I got a thing.
But he wouldn't
in 20 minutes, and that might be more important than saving
What
this
a
person.
dummy. He would be lawful good. Come on.
I do love, Travis. I know you're not getting the most stars, but I do love that I think this is maybe the most honest episode we've had of this podcast, where, there are some people who are like, oh, my saint of a mother. And I love that you're like, this man knows nothing.
No, listen, I love my dad so much. The problem is we're all storytellers, right? So we tell the same stories so many times that the truth warps into what's the funniest answer.
Sure.
Okay, what did your dad say your D&D alignment is?
I think it's chaotic good.
Chaotic with a soupçon of neutral.
Okay, so he's just focusing on neutral, lawful, chaotic.
Okay,
But
we'll
it's
give you
chaotic.
half
I'm going
a
to give you a
point.
star, though.
Yeah. What's the breast present
I gave
you've
him a
ever
set of
given your-
breasts
The breast
once. What did I give him? What have I given him? Grandkids should be the answer.
He went out and found an old copy of a Green Hornet series I wrote. And he found the first
yeah,
issue
that's
of
it.
Green Hornet Dark Tomorrow,
Wow.
had it graded, and put in a beautiful collector's frame.
That is true.
Wow, that is a good gift.
So first, something he wrote, and
It's a great
then
gift.
my children.
What's a bad habit you've gotten from him?
The bad habit I've gotten from him. Talking during movies.
He doesn't have the neatest office in the world.
That is true.
He has an office that looks like some kind of, nuclear weapon went off in it. And I am the same way.
Not that bad. If you look behind me, this is maybe post-apocalyptic. It's all grown back now.
No, it's-
Nature has taken over. Now that half of the room, yeah, it's terrible.
What's a value that your dad would want you to carry on?
I think it's spending time together, finding excuses to get together and togetherness. Is that the right kind of answer?
Yeah, he mentioned a specific tradition about that. Do you wanna-
I'm gonna say is maybe the Christmas Eve walk. To go out and walk around. It started with him taking us out of the house so my mom could get ready for Christmas Eve and talking about stuff that had happened in the year and stuff that we hope would happen in the next year. Good things, bad things, all that stuff.
Survey says.
We do a Christmas Eve walk.
Bingo.
Every Christmas Eve, me and the boys take a walk. And we spend the walk talking about the year that just passed and the year that's to come.
I'm going to carry that on. I love that.
That's
That's
such a
so
good
cool.
one.
I love that. Yeah.
And we've started doing it now. Like our kids go with us, and we then have them
So
talk
you're
about
doing
stuff
it. You're
too.
carrying it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
All right. Last one.
Who's your favorite son today?
Oh, he's gonna say me, I think, because I'm there. But that's also just true. I think
Okay.
he enjoys spending time with me the most.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I cannot answer that except to say usually it's the fourth unknown McElroy brother, bonus McElroy.
Now, see, here's the thing. You know that it's me. Because if it wasn't me, he would have made a joke about it being Justin or Griffin. So that's how you know it's me. So he couldn't say it because he knows.
I see. Okay.
This is the opposite of the dysphoria that you mentioned, where you're just like, he said it's not me, but I know it's me.
In this case, I know that it's me.
Great. Well, here's your tally. You got 3 stars in the initial. You picked up 3 more in the lightning, bringing you a total of 6, which I'm going to tell you is one of our lowest totals. But I think in a way, like a golf score, I feel like you still won because I got to say this is one of the best interviews.
And listen, thank you. But frankly, I didn't lose. Dad lost. Like Dad got so many of those answers wrong.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you.
You have been a wonderful guest. Thank you for your vulnerability and your actual applicable parenting advice that I will be taking with me. I really do appreciate that.
I think we love you unconditionally now, Travis. Is what we're trying to say.
Thank you very much.
I just also want to point out that Sandeep is way more comfortable telling you that he loves you than he is telling me that he loves me, and I am taking that with me. That's my takeaway for the episode.
Okay, well here's a curveball. I love you, Milana, unconditionally.
I think
I love
you're
you
both
too, but with conditions.
I think you're both very interesting, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better over time, and a respect developing, and maybe feelings deepening after that. We'll see. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I think you should go.
Yeah.
Oh, do a plug.
Yes, I'm gonna do a plug. I wanted to plug everything that I make. You can go to McElroy.family, find all the podcasts there. You can also find links to the Adventure Zone graphic novels that me and Dad and Justin and Griffin have written. You can find our merch there. You can find everything there. So either McElroy.family, you can find links to our YouTube channel too, and find a lot of fun stuff there. All that stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Travis.
He's incredible. I love the idea that he started a podcast with his brothers to just keep in touch, because that's kind of why you and I started this.
Yeah. It is beautiful that he started it that way. And that was like the mission, like there was no monetary, at least the way he describes it, that wasn't the success part wasn't even in the equation. The success was keeping in touch.
I also have really been thinking about this ADHD diagnosis that he got really young. Actually, I'm not even sure if it was ADHD that he got really young or just ADD really young. I did not get diagnosed.
I think it was the H.
It's the H.
Yeah.
It's with the H. But I love that he got that really young, that a teacher had that conversation with his parents, that his parents didn't see it as a stigmatized thing like so many parents did at that time. And instead, his mother changed to be the kind of parent that he needed to be parented by.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that really kind of stood out to me was obviously how family oriented they are, like literally how they kind of combine their family with their businesses. And yes, it came from this like really pure place, which is so beautiful. But like I'm starting to produce my brother's podcast and working with my family a lot more. I'm helping my dad with their yoga. Like they have this whole yoga initiative, and I feel it, and I feel like, oh, this is almost like in some ways 10 years too late. Like it's so cool that they got like such an early jump on that.
Yeah, this sounds so basic, but if you spend more time with your family, you get more time with your family.
Oh, wait, hold on. I gotta write that
No,
down.
I'm serious. And that's the thing that we're always saying that we want at the end of our lives or after somebody passes. We're like, oh, I wish I had more time with them. Well, the solution to that is to spend more time with them.
Yeah. It's interesting how challenging. I heard this really depressing statistic that you spent 75%. By the age of 12, you'll have spent 75% of your life with your child. By the age of 12, and the other 25% is spread out over the rest of your life. Basically, it's so sad.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so hard to prioritize other things when our kids are little is because we do have this sense of preciousness.
What a fun episode. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening.
I could talk to you forever, Sandeep,
Well, we can keep talking.
but you guys should leave.
Can you guys go? This is getting awkward
Can I have
now.
some space?
Can you guys please go? Your Mom is a Podcast is hosted by Milana Weintraub and Sandeep Parikh. It is executive produced by Milana Weintraub, Sandeep Parikh, and Stephen Hine. Editing and sound design is by Sean Marr. Music by Matt Friedman. This podcast comes from Effin' Funny Productions and Story Mill Media. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram and TikTok at Your Mom is a Podcast.
Hey,
Hi, Dad. I just finished recording Your Mom is a Podcast, where you got interviewed and then I was matching your answers. So this is the wrap up in the episode where I call you and tell you how it went. Here at the end of it, went pretty good. Some of your answers were wildly off. The beef burgundy one threw me for such a loop.
how are my answers off? How do you know your answers weren't off?
What child likes beef burgundy? What are you talking about?
Well,
I'm not even completely sure what beef burgundy is.
it's the stuff your mom used to make with the chunks of beef.
That was sauerbraten. First of all, you're talking about sauerbraten that she made. And I liked it. Anyways, I love you very much. I got like 6 stars. So I could have done better. You could have done better. We'll chalk this up to a team loss.
Yeah, well, we'll get them next time.
There you go. We'll do the same answers again, and then we'll be able to test it out.
Well, I'll know better next time.
There you go. Okay, I love you very much.
I love you too, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
Your Mom is a Podcast.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.